Rising Star.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
This is one of the more open races, I reckon.
It is.
At least in my opinion.
It's always hard because you don't know, you forget how open some of the other ones were as well.
Yeah.
They feel like they were slam dunks. Like I went back through and had a look at 2021, 2022, 2023 and 2024. Jackson, Dacos, Sheasel and Dempsey. Although, is it fair to say that Harley Reid would have won the Rising Star if not for suspension?
I think so, but Sam Darcy also was suspended as well, if I remember that correctly.
He was too.
Yeah, so there was a couple there that could have made it. And now when you see the evolution of Sam Darcy now, I'm willing to, without remembering the season that Darcy had last year, I'm willing to concede he might have actually won it. But
Yeah, I feel like, he did come of age that year, but I feel like Harley was pretty bloody good in his first year.
He would have been a deserving winner, but so was Dempsey.
Yes.
Great player. And he's backed that up again with the potentially All-Australian season, so fair play.
So let's go through some of these potential, we can have a look at the odds and stuff like that, but the first one I want to touch on, probably the outright favourite at the moment, we're talking Levi Ashcroft, Brisbane Lions, 6.92 ranking points per game. He's rated 112th for midfielders. So that doesn't sound great, 112th, but it is midfielders overall, so there's obviously a lot more of them, a bit more competition. He's sort of playing role-wise a wing. He doesn't get too many centre bounce attendances.
I was going to say that, which would hurt his ranking.
Exactly, because it does hurt that contested side of the game,
and
which then... Exactly. So 17 games for the season, 20 disposals per game, 29% of those are contested, of the 20 disposals, so... Quick maths, what's 29%? Something like 7 around that mark.
Out of how many? 20?
20, yeah.
Yeah, let's call it
that
7.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
1.9 clearances, 0.5 goals. That's probably the most impressive part for me with Ashcroft. It's a 0.5 goals. That's pretty good.
Was that something he demonstrated as a junior?
I think it was. It was. I always found his goal kicking difficult to quantify at juniors because it was like, I always thought, is he going to be able to do that? Replicate that at AFL level. Sometimes he'd sort of push forward and he'd get in contests and he drew a lot of free kicks. So his movement worried opposition players and they'd give a lot of free kicks and then you're like, is he going to get those at AFL level? He seems to be able to do it, whether it's like stoppage sort of goals. He seems to just find space. He finds the footy so easily, this guy. And he makes pretty good decisions. I feel like he's almost like a perfect player for Brisbane where they're at, that high-end team. He slots straight in. He's ready to go. And they like that slower ball movement. They kind of, chip mark, kind of move the ball around. He sort of suits that for me. He's not a really direct player.
Yeah. I was going to suggest, do you think for the Rising Star, we should really factor in who they play for and how that impacts their numbers? Because he's, amongst the Rising Star eligible players, he is second of those who have played more than 2 games for score involvement average, I think.
Yep.
So, a high score involvement player, but would he be that at even, let's not even say West Coast, let's say the Fremantle Dockers?
Yeah, exactly.
The opportunities are just not quite there. You could say more competition as well, though.
It's so true. I mean, even just dumping a kick inside that Brisbane forward line with, Morris, Hipwood as your keys, and then you've got Bailey, Rayner, McCluggage arriving, this sort of players. So, you're going to get more score on the board. They're a high-scoring team. Big offenses are going to help that out. I do agree with you. I feel like Ashcroft's been okay. For me, watching him throughout the season, he hasn't kind of blown me away. I sort of expected that he would come in and be able to do this. Probably the more impressive thing that he's been able to hold his place in the team.
That's true.
In a really good team. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe in all of this, that's almost like the biggest accomplishment of it all.
A little bit death by 1,000 cuts to some extent as well, just that consistency. I was thinking watching Ashcroft last night. He had Will, his older brother, who had a good game. And I'm going to draw that comparison lazily because they're brothers. But I was thinking, this guy does all the bread and butter stuff, nothing spectacular, but then he steps up in the clutch moment and then doesn't make mistakes.
That's the thing that you can't knock them for. The fact that you do go a bit, it's a bit sort of like high volume accumulation type stuff, but they do make... I think sometimes watching Ashcroft across his juniors as well, he could be a bit safe with the ball, to be fair. He sort of likes to keep the ball in motion, just giving it to teammates, but he doesn't make any mistakes and they will hurt you. And he kicked 2 goals last night. Exactly.
So it's I can kind of forgive the low impact per possession perhaps when he gets the opportunity to do something and he takes it. And I know we're talking about Levi, but Will's goal like on the siren last night was fantastic.
That was obscene.
Yeah.
Obscene. And like they're pretty similar players.
Yeah. I shouldn't be making that comparison, but I think that is something they have in common is my point. Yeah.
They are pretty similar players. I think Will's probably a little bit more of like at this point, like a bit more of an inside player. Levi a little bit more on the outside, but he's right up there. I just wanted to do one comparison and give us like a reference to go back on here. So he's averaging 6.92 champion data ranking points. Say what you will about those. Some of the previous winners, Jackson averaged 9.95, Dacos averaged 9.87, Sheezer was 10.24, and Ollie Dempsey 9.82. So he is a little bit below that, but then you've got to factor in the fact that he's playing on a wing, more of those like auxiliary positions as opposed to like an inside mid and even at halfback where you can probably even have more volume. So it's a tough one.
That's a good point. It is probably being hamstrung by, as much as I said, it helps to some extent he's playing in a good team, but that lower opportunity to prove himself, at the coalface or whatever, is also something that might hurt his numbers. I would also say that, having said that, I think that the players you mentioned there, like Luke Jackson and Nick Dacos, had superior winning seasons, even probably an Ollie Dempsey from the eye test. Would you agree with that?
All stepping into good teams.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So that would tell you that apart from Sheezel was the outlier there.
Yeah, true.
I just think Sheezel was almost like he was too good.
Yeah.
You just had to give it to him, right?
Yeah.
Almost like too much volume. But it's an interesting one. Do you want to sort of rank it at the end or do you want to go after each player?
I reckon we do it as we go. If we say that, Levi is the favourite.
Where do you have him?
I think he's the favourite, but I don't know if it's my prediction. Well, what are we doing? Are we saying who should win it?
Who you think, I reckon?
I can't believe I'm saying this, and I reckon if he sat next to me, I wouldn't be admitting this, but I'm kind of a little bit more sold on Murphy Reid than I was the last time we had a little flutter about this conversation.
Really?
Maybe not. I'm not going to say, look, he should win because there's Daniel Curtin as well who we'll talk about. But I think Murphy Reid's season has been very impressive. I think I read that he might be the first player to get 25 goals and 25 goal assists in his debut season in the same year. He's not at those numbers yet, but he's on track based on averages.
Yep.
He's out of all those players that are Rising Star eligible, he is number one for score involvement. So I said that Levi was number two and Murphy's in an inferior team and higher for a team that I reckon wouldn't score as much as Brisbane off the top of my head. I think that I was watching him the other day and when he gets the ball in the forward 50, as a guy who barracks against Fremantle in a lot of neutral games, every time he gets the ball inside 50, I'm like, oh no. And when he's got me feeling like that, then you've got a player in your hands.
That's a bad sign, isn't it? Yeah. He's been, of that draft crop, of all of the guys that have come in and done really well, he's probably surprised me the most. Just how fluently he's gone to another state, which there was a lot of talk about how he didn't want to necessarily be in WA as well.
Yeah.
He's just so creative.
I think his role is easier. So having said that, I've kind of talked myself out of saying he should win it. I think,
when you say his role is easy, compared to who?
Levi.
Compared to Levi?
For a start.
Okay.
Maybe even a Dan Curtin, who is older, to be fair.
Yep.
But I think playing as that sort of fluid, unaccountable forward, sure, that's an easy role. However, he also does a lot of shit that other people can't. And I would like to acknowledge that. I think he is so damaging per possession. He might have an 8-possession game, but still kick a goal and have a couple of score involvements that were quite quality. So probably not enough to win it. But I do over time I've come around to this idea that Murphy should go close.
There's a lot of right place, right time for me about Murphy Reid. Yeah. Like going to a team in Freo who are good but not great. Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair assessment of Fremantle.
Yeah.
Lacking small forwards, lacking that positional flexibility that he has to be able to that gave him the opportunity to be able to bed into the team and stay there.
Yeah.
And then his quality has obviously taken him. So, I mean, we're talking about the Rising Star options here. So it's not as if we're saying that he's had a bad season if we don't rank him as number one.
Yeah.
We talked about Ashcroft off the top. I would have Ashcroft just ahead of Reid.
Yes.
At the moment.
That's fair. Look,
I'm not giving you a number there. I'm just saying Ashcroft I would have ahead of Reid.
I do think actually playing on a wing, and I'm sort of thinking as I'm talking here, but I think playing on a wing can be quite difficult. It's not an easy role to win the footy. Like you can do your role perfectly and have six touches as a wingman sometimes because if you're just like keeping your width. So the fact that Ashcroft is finding the footy, look, he probably deserves a higher ranking than Murphy, but he's had a great first season, Murphy Reid. Well, should we talk about Daniel Curtin? Because this guy has crept up on us and he's now the second favourite just behind Levi. So when I wrote down the odds, it was $3.25 Ashcroft, $3.50 Dan Curtin, who has played 17 games this year. Have you been as impressed with Dan Curtin?
I think Dan Curtin's I don't know, hard to put an exact number on it, but I think his last 6 weeks have been at a higher level than any of the guys on this list. I think the slow start could hurt him in the overall rankings, but we're talking about a guy here, 10.1 rating points per game.
Okay.
So he's, right up in that top echelon. He's ahead of both of them. He's played 17 games. As I said, slow start. Only the 13 disposals, but 45% contested possession. And the big stat for me, 1.3 contested marks. Like
second year tall, that's good.
That is absolutely massive. And it's not as a key forward. So he's roaming basically. He's going into that half back line, being an outlet for them, taking marks on the logos and that sort of stuff, and then drifting forward. 0.5 goals per game off a wing is pretty good, and then 3.8 scoring involvements, not exactly on the same level as Murphy Reid.
That's still quite high, 3.8. I reckon if you're averaging about 4 a game, you're going pretty well.
Again, off a wing, so we talk about the role, and Murphy Reid is playing that closer to goal role.
Yeah.
Which puts him above Ashcroft and Dan Curtin as well. But I think, is it fair to say that Dan Curtin is a big piece in this push for Adelaide as well? The fact that they've come up the ladder, I think you can put a bit of that down to what they've got out of him.
Possibly. They've got a lot of quality players. It really is a whole team effort, I think. Dan's a funny one. Obviously, West Coast were part of that conversation about, do we take Dan Curtin or trade the pick for Harley Reid? I think my thing with him was he does good shit with the footy, but I just wasn't sure what his position was. But he's one of those players, a little bit like Murphy, actually. It's regardless of what his position is, when he does get the footy, he does good things. And that is something he's definitely carried this year, despite not being drafted as a wingman. He's kind of a key defender in a loose sense.
Well, that's what he was drafted as. It's like an intercepting defender.
Yeah.
I think when you've got a talented player, I think clubs and fans get too scared of those bankable position players.
Yeah. But there are some negative examples.
Of course there are. Yeah, of course there are. But also,
I get your point.
There are players like Marcus Bontempelli. Of course, you could go the negative as well, but players like Marcus Bontempelli didn't really have a defined position when drafted as well. So it can go both ways. From those three, I think they are the big three. I wanted to mention Archie Roberts, who's had a pretty incredible season, really, off halfback. 7.79 rating points. He's the 67th ranked general defender as a sort of halfback distributor. 23 disposals. 3.2 score involvement's pretty good off a halfback flank as well. I don't have him in that top group. I wouldn't have him in the Curtin, Ashcroft and Murphy Reid discussion, just a little bit back, but I think acknowledging his season is definitely something that we should do. And the other one for me was Harvey Langford.
Yes. Sorry, I thought we were talking about Harvey Langford. Who are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, I was talking about Archie Roberts.
Yes, sorry, yes, my bad. I was kind of distracted by Richmond's goal. I would agree with that assessment. I think that Harvey Langford is the 4th possibility to win. I really don't know. Do you reckon it's come out of that first 3 we talked about?
I think so.
Murphy, Ashcroft, and Curtin.
I think it'd be one of those guys.
Yeah. It does seem late in the piece to really make a move. Touch wood, someone could get injured and ruin their chances. It's just enough time for that to happen, but fingers crossed nobody does.
I think Harvey Langford looks like an absolute beast, but there is probably a discussion to have, and you could make the argument that Harvey Langford going to a worse team and how good he's looked, and how much he sort of looks like he's giving this team a bit of regeneration. I think is big for him, but he's getting compared to the others, he's getting the most amount of centre bounces. So he's kind of being given that opportunity, being in a lower team as well. I think that's got to be factored in.
343 metres gained, which interestingly, I think that's a solid average for a player of his style. The only player who is Rising Star eligible that has more metres gained per game than Harvey Langford is Tyrell Dewar.
Is it really?
Yeah, I thought that was a fun fact because Tyrell's definitely not a chance to win.
Put him in the mix. Yeah. Put him in. No, you would expect, to be honest, positionally, you would expect it to be probably Archie Roberts off a half-back flank.
That's true.
Given the amount of ball that he's getting back there.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed with Archie like his kick retention rate and his kick threat are pretty low.
Yeah.
So he doesn't bite off that difficult of kicks. Partly that's Essendon's game style. So again, the way teams play like factors into this. But yeah, he's not making aggressive kicks, and when he takes the safer kicks, he misses a few as well. So I think you probably have to mark him down for that. For me, to put a line under it as far as the rising star, I think Dan Curtin.
You think he's the winner?
I think Dan Curtin is the winner, followed by Levi Ashcroft.
Yeah.
Then Murphy Reid in third.
That's a tough one. I'm trying to make a strong argument either way.
So you feel like, to me, you feel like you're leaning Murphy Reid?
No, it was actually more Ashcroft is the biggest threat.
Okay.
I think. But then I'm separating like opinion versus prediction.
While Jesse does that, get in the comments, guys.
Yeah, let us know.
Who do you think should win the Rising Star? I know Bombers fans are keen on Roberts. I don't think he's quite there. Ashcroft, Curtin, Reid.
He's not a winner. Of the award, I don't think he's a realistic winner. Who else did I have? I did put Caddy and O'Sullivan here just as people to talk about, but again, Caddy's just paying $16 odds. I'm not even sure about O'Sullivan, but a couple of players that have had really good seasons. But I think the next most likely to win the award by odds was Clay Hall after that.
Really?
Yeah, it was like $101 though.
Jeez.
So the Sportsbet said there's like 7 contenders.
Yeah.
Of all,
exactly.
We've just named them all.
I mean, Finn O'Sullivan, I've been wrapped with his progress